the reality is that all of the rules that we follow, that we consider to be the laws in this country, come from regulatory agencies.
Mhm.
The legislators themselves will pass, this really broad law that says, okay, we want the air to be clean. Bam, we make the EPA, and then the EPA decides how to do that. So even if conservative legislators that would not approve of really dramatic EPA regulations vote to make the EPA exist, well, then they've lost as they've ceded power to the people on the far left who work at the EPA who promulgate the regulations.
Yeah.
So until we have any sort of institutional power within the regulatory agencies, hoping for anything other than liberal policy coming out of those regulatory agencies is pretty hopeless.
Yeah, and this is kind of the problem that I think that the Trump administration ran into really, really quickly, is that you, especially coming from private business, you are used to being able to move at a certain pace, having so much control over what you can control is pretty much everything in private business if you're the top person. But if you're in government and you have hundreds of thousands of employees just in the Department of Education alone, then for you to get anything done within the education sphere is next to impossible. Even if you spend 4 years of your time working on it and you have one of the, Betsy DeVos was a good, Secretary of Education, but it didn't matter because you had, as you said, all of these, people that are just in their bureaucratic positions, basically roadblocking every idea and every reform that gets pushed, or proposed. The other issue, and I think it was Tucker Carlson that said this, that Republicans are terrible as a governing party. And it's 100% true. They hate to be in power. And there's a lot of theories I have, and that's a long, we don't really know why that is. I think we all probably have a few different theories as to why that is, but it's kind of undeniable that it's a fact. They refuse to use power whenever they have it to kind of push things through. So whenever conservatives do have, all three branches of government, they don't really get anything. They don't really do anything. They won't push the envelope. You have a lot of Republicans that will break party lines. Democrats really never break party lines unless they're allowed to, because the majority knows that they're going to pass legislation anyway, and it would help a specific Democrat in their constituency. Republicans don't have that type of unity, and it was a real problem not only with Section 230, but especially during the Trump administration, where you had Paul Ryan, who kind of stepped out after the first 2 years of the Trump administration, really hijacked and sabotaged a lot of the opportunities that could have been, especially for the last 2 years of his presidency. But they're so disjointed. There was no unity in the party. So among the leadership, among the base, it's actually more unified as the Republican Party than the Democrat Party is. But among the leadership, it's the opposite. So it's kind of a weird dichotomy.
And that definitely leads to inefficacy. And I think the other problem is when you are a party that's striving for greater power, it's easy to say, okay, we're at the reins here for 2 years. Let's make the biggest grasp that we can. That's how you make the giant push and get Obamacare through. Whereas when you're the party that's for less governmental power, it's a lot harder to get through. And I mean, what are you going to do? Nuke Obamacare, nuke the EPA? It's all very unrealistic once you're actually standing there in Congress. If you're just a member of Congress, to say this is the stance we're going to take.